Cheers and happy Thursday, coffee drinkers. Special shout out and prayers to all the friends I left back on coastal Alabama who are recovering from Sally. We lived there 10 years and didn't have much more than high winds, but Sally really did a doozy. So I'm thinking about you guys. Today, I want to follow up on a Coffee with Brent number 227 from this last Saturday. And it is one of those that is inspired by some daily Bible readings I do. And Ezra and Nehemiah happen about the same time, these two books in the Bible. Even though they come fairly early in the Bible, they happen after, Israel's had this wonderful kingdom and then splits, and then everybody's exiled, and so they're trying to come back. And I talked on Saturday about how, when people get in your ear and chatter and try to intimidate you, you can let it go to your head, you can let it go to your heart, but don't let it go to your hands. Don't let it go to your hands and you'll keep going, right? So, the follow-up is this. That wasn't the only opposition the Israelites faced as they were trying to rebuild. They had authority to rebuild the temple, the house of God, but they weren't given authority at that time to rebuild the walls. And so they start trying to rebuild the city, and some people see this and don't like it, and they report it to the powers that be, who are so far away that later in the story, when somebody's traveling with some important stuff from that capital where everything's happening, it takes like 5 months to get there. So here's the reporting going on. So when this time when people told on them for rebuilding the walls, instead of getting approval from the government and support from the government, and they were told, stop what you're doing. And so they had to stop what they were doing. So, sometimes people are going to chatter, and, you're going to have to, under authority, stop what you're doing. Now, let's fast forward from that moment 19 years. So there's a 19-year hiatus. And there's a guy named Nehemiah who is a really important court official, serves under the king, and he finds out how terrible things are, and it kills him. He's a real prayer warrior. I wish I could be like him. He prays. He's just very sad about all this. And he prays, and when he's serving the king, he's sad. He can't, how your affect becomes when you're depressed and you're down. And so he's before the king, and the king says, why are you acting this way? Nehemiah's like, why shouldn't I act this way when, the city of my fathers is in ruins? And so the king, now mind you, 19 years later, the king says, well, what do you want to do? What are you asking of me? He's like, well, I'd like to go there and rebuild it. King says, sure. And by the way, here's why Nehemiah is such an awesome guy in terms of prayer, is like, there's a little scripture. King says, what are you asking of me? And Nehemiah says, so I sent up a prayer to God. So I prayed to God, and then I asked him. So it wasn't like he went off and prayed for 20 minutes or 3 days. He prayed right there, zippity-doo-dah. And God was already working at this. And so the king says, yeah, you can do that. And then Nehemiah says, hey, can I also have this so I have letters to get through because people are going to give me a hard time? Yeah, you can take this. Oh, and also, can I have letters of authority so I can actually go to the king's forest and get some wood to rebuild? Yes, you can do that. And so he does it. So it's 19 years later. And remember, when the Israelites were stopped, they were, they were taking initiative. They were just trying to do some things. But they got stopped. And so what I want you to know, look, God's delay does not mean God's denial. All right? Just because you're delayed doing something doesn't mean you're going to be denied doing something. So be patient. They were probably scrounging for supplies and materials to build the wall and to build up the city before. Now they've got letters of authority to do it, to go to the king's force to do it. So just remember, God's delay does not mean God's denial. Hang in there. There's going to be ups and downs. You're not at the end of the story until you're at the end of the story. So, all right, peace. Hope you guys have a great day, and I'll try not to talk so much next time.